Good morning and welcome to today's class. I'm happy we've been able to do an extra work on the ones we've done. Our last class, we were able to do some revisions on the previous topics we've treated in Python, and I believe we've been able to do one or two things together with it. And I saw the assignment, yeah. So I'm still going to give a review after today's class. But today we'll be moving straight to a new topic, talking about lists, tuples, and dictionaries. So what do we really mean by those things? It's very important for us to also learn those things, right? So I want to start by explaining what we've done so far, especially when we talk about variables. Variables, basically, we have a certain name. For example, I can have Miriam. I can have Miriam, right, to be equals to something else, right? I can say Miriam can be equals to, no, can be equals to something else, right? Say 25 or 15. Let me just put it this way. Miriam is equals to 15. 15 is a figure, so it's not going to be in quotes, right? Miriam is 15, right? So I can say this. So this is a variable, right? So have you ever imagined that we can have a variable that we can attach one or more items to it? Do you understand what I'm saying? So I have a variable, so it means I can have a bucket. And inside that particular bucket, I've got so many different balls inside it. Or at home, I'm sure you have your box, you have your wardrobe, right? In your wardrobe, you've got so many clothes inside your wardrobe. Do you understand? Do you understand? It's calling what? You are having a variable. So we can say your variable is your wardrobe. And the item inside your wardrobe are your clothes, different type of clothes. Yellow clothes, gown, hijab, jilbab, so many things that you can have. Briefs, what else again that can you have in your wardrobe? So all those things are combine or put inside a particular wardrobe. So we should be able to do something like that also in programming. So if I really want to program something in that particular regard, that should be something I should be able to do in making sure I get that thing done. So with that, that is what that led us to what? Lists, tuples, and dictionary. So basically, lists generally are called, let me just put that way. Lists generally are what are called arrays in other programming languages. They are called what? Arrays in other programming languages. So basically, I can have arrays of numbers, right? Arrays of items. So that's normal English word. But that is too big for some people to comprehend or for some people to understand, right? And that's why Python now make it so low in such a way that you can easily understand what is called lists, right? So I can have a list of numbers, I can have a list of items, I can have, so if I'm talking about list now, you should be able to understand what list is better, even without even telling you what list really means. Do you understand? Because lists are things that you normally use in your day-to-day activities. Do you understand what I'm saying? Lists are things you normally use in your day-to-day activities compared to arrays. Arrays, I will have to explain what arrays means because it's an English word though, right? But of course, it's a little bit ambiguous. I would have to explain what it means. But with list, you already understand what list means. So I can have a bucket or your wardrobe. So I'm going to use your wardrobe as an example. I can have your wardrobe and I have a list of clothes, the clothing that you've got in your wardrobe. Do you understand? So how do we now get to do that in Python? How do you get to do that in Python? So for list, right? The only way we can create list, I've been able to explain what it means, right? So the only way we can create list in Python is by the use of a square bracket, something like this, right? Square bracket. So let me put this here. For us to be able to get list, this is what we are going to use to calling or describing list or creating list. So how do we do that? So I can now start with what that same cupboard or wardrobe, right? I can just say wardrobe. Spell wardrobe. I can say wardrobe, right? Will be equals to a list of items. So I said if I'm going to call a list, I'm going to start with what? A square bracket. And that is a square bracket that you can see on the on your screen. So inside your wardrobe, what do you normally have in your wardrobe? Yeah, tell me.
Clothes.
Can you hear me?
Clothes.
Clothes. We have different type of clothes. Okay, clothing. Okay. Comma. What else? Hijab.
Hijab.
What else?
Trousers.
You said what?
Trousers.
Me? You said what?
Trousers.
I can barely hear you.
I said trousers.
Trousers. Okay. What else? Gowns, right? What else? What else again? What else again? I need one more. One more, please. Give me one more. Scarves. Abby, you should have scarves. Right?
Yes, sir.
Aha. So this is enough. I'll make it smaller a little bit so we can see everything at once. Yeah. So you can see we've got wardrobe. Inside the wardrobe, we have this. So which means I can as well have a variable. Wardrobe is my variable that hold as many items as possible compared to what we are used to. Because what we are used to before is having a variable that holds only one item. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, and that is how to create a variable. So inside this particular variable, there are so many things we can do to it also. We can as well call it and understand how it means. I understand what it means. So there are different ways of doing this, right? So, for example, since I already have this particular range. So how do we assess the list element? How do we assess it, right? Since you already know how it is being called, we call list by using this square bracket. And list is also the same thing as array. So if you are maybe perhaps you want to port to another programming language and you add array, just remember that arrays are also the same thing as the list that you learned in Python. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that is very, very important. So how do I get to do that? How do you get to access this? Normally we've always been doing print statements. So let's print it and let's see what we can get here. So if you print, I can just print and print wardrobe. Right. So once I print wardrobe, I can just press Control F5. If I run, you will see. Can you see what we have here? Let me make it bigger. Can you see what we have here? So which means we can print this and get it done better. Do you understand now? Can print it and get everything done better. But of course, there is more to this thing. There is more to it, right? There is more to it. And how do I know it's a list? Don't forget, how do I know is a list, right? We can as well come here. Can as well come here and do print into brackets, type function. Use a type. You remember this type function, right? Just for us to know if it is a list or not. So I will just press Ctrl F5. So you can see it's showing me list here. Can you see? Which means the class of what I've written of wardrobe, the data type of this particular wardrobe is called what? List. Right. So these are ways we can do it. So another thing that we can also get is we can also access every item in this particular list. Every item we can access it. So basically that now take us to a concept called an index concept, right? Indexing in Python or in any programming language is trying to name an item. So for example, if you have a list or an array that we have so many items in it, it is important for us to be able to list it, right? In order for them to be able to name them with numbers. So this is the first number. This is the first item I have in my wardrobe. So for example, your first item you have in your wardrobe are your clothing, right? From your clothing, you've got hijab, that's the second item. The third items are trousers. The fourth item are gowns. The fifth items are scarves, right? So for us to be able to do that, and of course, because computer is garbage in, garbage out, we need to use an index notation to number them. So how do we index them? Is the first item in your list is always 0, right? Followed by the second item to be 1, third item is 2, fourth item is 3, and the fifth item is 4. So I like that, like that, like that, like that, like that. And you won't be the one naming it. Automatically, the system has named it for you. So for you, if you now want to pick any of these things, yours is just to know where it is in terms of the position it is in your scarf. So that is when you are going to get your things done. Do you understand? So for example, if I'm going to call on or even list or call on clothes alone, so I just want to show clothes alone, right? What I'm going to print, what I'm going to do is just to come here and do print wardrobe. Inside this wardrobe, I'll just have a square bracket. Inside this square bracket, I will put my index. So I'm looking for hijab. So I want to call on just hijab, right? If I'm going to do this, let me comment this out. If I'm going to do this, press Ctrl F5 or come here and print and press play. You will see that I have only hijab. Hijab is only showing here. Let me open. Can you see? It's only hijab that is showing because I mentioned just one, and this is the second item. Don't forget, your index, these are the ways you index. Your first value is going to be 0, the second is 1, the third is 2, the fourth is 3, fifth is 4, like that, like that, like that, like that, like that. Do you understand it? These are ways we can do our things very well. Another thing about list itself is list can be editable, right? Let me tell you, list can be what? Editable. Editable, what do I mean by editable? It can be changed. Let me now use the word we normally use, mutable. I'm sure you must have done mutation in your biology in your school, right? It is what? Mutable, which means we can change it, right? We can change so many things in it. I can change that clothes to something else. My first item, I don't want clothes to be in my first item. I want to put something else. I can do that. I want to delete what I have. The way you can remove your clothing in your wardrobe, right? And it will remain only hijab, trousers, gowns, and scarf, right? Is the way that you can delete it. So we are imagining what you can do. Just imagine what you can do to your wardrobe. You can change the clothing, so remove clothes and replace it with something else. You can delete something away by removing a hijab away from that. I don't want my hijab to be in my wardrobe again. I want to buy extra shelf to put my hijab. So you've been able to remove hijab from your wardrobe. That's you've been able to delete your hijab from the entire list. At the same time, I want to add to it. I've got clothes, I've got hijab, I've got trousers, I've got gown. Okay, there's something I need to do. So maybe, yeah, I can be adding something else to it. So it's just imagine and something you want to add to your wardrobe. So you should be able to add it. Yes. These are things we should be able to do with lists, right? So, and these are things I'm going to show you how to do today. So basically, we've been able to see how we can just pick on just one thing, right? And work with it. Do you understand? Just one thing and work with it. Very, very important. Another thing is I can remove one and show every other one. So now how do we do that? So like I said, I was able to choose two. So for the mutable, so let's start with mutable aspect, right? So the first thing first, instead of just showing one thing, I want to just show from 2 to the last list I have. How do I do that? So the way I'm going to do that is I can do print statement, right? So the same thing, but I'm going to remove what I have here. So I'm going to start, what I want to show is from hijab down to scarf. Or I want to show from trousers down to scarf. How do I do that? So this is 0, 1, right? So which I say, if I say 1, it's going to start from hijab, right? So if I say 2, so let's do 2, then I put column here. So which means 2 to the rent. Please ignore clothes and hijab. Show me trousers, gowns, and scarf. So let's run it and let's see how this shows. Can you see? Trousers, gowns, and scarf. It has skipped what? Clothes and hijab. Another thing you can do also, you can also do to the back. So let's do this. Then let's start from say 4. If it's going to be 4, this time around, you will see where it's going to end. We are going to have clothes. Can you see? We stopped at 4, which is gown. So 0, 1, 2, 3. You understand? 4. 0, 1, 2, 3. So basically, it's from the back that we are trying to count, right? So 4, it will skip 4. That was all we are trying to say. Skip 4 for me, please, and give me every other one. From 4, skip me, give me every other one till 0. That is what this means. Do you understand? Do you understand? That is what it means. So we can imagine how this will really work for us. Can imagine how this will really work for us. So I think you should also be able to get that very well. Another thing I think we can do is, how do I add to this particular wardrobe? So what is that thing you think we can add to your wardrobe?
Hmm.
Eh?
Shirt.
I can barely hear you. Please speak louder, please.
So I said shirt.
Chef,
Yes.
chef in your wardrobe. What do you want to add? What do you mean by chef?
Yes. Shirt.
Shirt. Okay, okay. So how do we now add? So let me show you how to add now. So I'm going to do hashtag add to the list items, right? So how do we add in the list item? So what we are going to do, we are still using wardrobe, right? But we are going to do something called append. We are going to use an append function, right? So basically, the way we are going to do that is just going to be wardrobe wardrobe.append. So we said we should add shirts, Abby. So I'm going to change this from Smith to shirt. So if I have this, right, you've been able, if I run it, automatically it will be there, right? But what I'm going to do is I would comment these ones out, then leave this one here open, right? Then here I will now come here and do print wardrobe. Right? So you will see the first one. The first one is going to be this. Then the second one we have shirt. So let's see how this goes. Let me just play it. So you see we've got 2. Can you see?
Yes.
Can you see now? It shows what?
Yeah.
Wardrobe. So we've been able to add our shirts. Please check very well. Can you see we've been able to add shirts?
Okay.
Right? So that's how to what? Add. This is append. We use append to add to our list. The next thing is, how do we remove an element? So which one do you think we can remove? Trousers, right? Let's see how we can remove trousers. So if you want to remove trousers, we use something we call the remove function. So for removing, so let's do that. Remove from this. So let's do that. So how do we remove? So we are going to just do wardrobe dot remove. But this time around, I'm not going to remove shirts. I'm removing trousers. Can you see? So if I'm going to do that, I will just do print wardrobe back, then we just print. So if you print, you will see what we have. Can you see what we are having now? Can you see now? The trousers has been removed. So we've been able to remove trousers.
Yeah. That's it.
Do you get it now? You have been able to remove what? Trousers. Very, very important. Right. So the next thing I think we can easily do also here is how do we join? But of course, joining is not the main thing. Is how we've done remove, we've done what's it called? We've done add. So how do we edit? For example, I want to change hijab to jelibab, right? I want to change hijab to say, yeah, jelibab. Yeah. So how do we do that? So edit or yeah, how do we edit a list? Edit. How do we edit a list, right? So how do we do that? So the way to do this is very, very easy and straightforward, right? Doing this is very easy and straightforward. So how do we do this? It's basically by just coming down here, right? And say wardrobe, wardrobe, right? So what we are going to do basically is which one do you want to change? So let's try and change hijab, right? So and the index of this hijab is what? 1, 0, 1, right? That is what we are going to do. You just do your index to be 1, to be you now say equals to what do you want to put it there? What do you want to put there? What do you want to put there? Abaya. Let's change hijab to abaya, right? So once we are done, so the next thing we are going to do is we can just print our wardrobe and let's see what this will give us. So let's print Control F5. We do Control F5. Has it changed?
Yes.
Has it changed? Hello, can you see me? Has it changed?
Yes, sir. I said yes.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So that is most things that you need to know, like that, I think are things that we normally do with what? List. So basically, list as we can see how we can use list to making sure that we get numerous list item attached to a variable, right? So for example, I can say because maybe I can use your surname, right? Your dad's name. Then I can attach your dad's name can serve as a variable. Then use all your siblings' names. I will just say your dad's name equals to your siblings, right? So anytime I want to call on anybody or attach your dad to someone else or your dad to Miriam, I will just say this dot Miriam. Do you understand? I will always get it very well. And a very perfect example is a wardrobe. Just imagine your wardrobe. Imagine whatever you can do to your wardrobe. I can tell you that you'll be able to get it done here too, right? Anything. Just imagine what you can do to your wardrobe. You can bet it with you that writing a program for it will be very, very easy for us. So I think it's very important for us to do that, right? So another thing, since we are done with this, so let's go to top. So what do you mean by top generally? So tuple is just like a list, right? Tuple is just like a list. They also store collections of items, just the way list does, like your wardrobe also, right? Just like your wardrobe, it stores what collection of items. However, unlike list, tuple is immutable. Immutable means you cannot do anything to it. For example, the only thing you can get to know is know what is inside. You can always know the content, right? So, for example, your wardrobe is being locked, right? So it's now locked with a glass. So you are the only one that has the key. But even once you did the one, or immediately you lock, you threw the key away, right? But people can see the content of that your wardrobe, but they cannot do anything to it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Hello, do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, people can see your wardrobe, they can see the content of your wardrobe, but they cannot do anything to it. They cannot remove, they cannot change, they cannot edit, they cannot sort, they cannot do anything to it, right? So it's important for you to understand that, okay, tuples are just like lists, but the only difference between tuples and lists is because what? Lists are mutable. They can edit it, we can do this, we can change it, but tuples are immutable. So how do we now represent or create tuple? We create tuple by just using parentheses, right? Parentheses, right? So that is how tuples can be created. So how do we do that? So I'll just press enter, then try and do color. Let me use another, don't let me use wardrobe again. Let me use colors now. I've got colors, a variable to be equal to this, right? So instead of using this, so I will change this to this, because this is how tuple can be created. Like I said, we create tuple by using what? Parentheses. Let me quickly comment all these things I've got here out. So it's not going to affect our work, right? So let's print it and let's see how it goes. Control F5. If we print it, you can see what we have. So let me change this. We print again. Now, this is what we have. This is what we have here. Let me increase it for you to see. This is what we have here, right? But immediately, we can also check for its type. We can check for its type by saying print. Can you see? Control F5. Okay, can you see what it's showing me now? This is showing us what? It's showing us tuple. Can you see? This is showing us what? Tuple. Do you understand? This is showing us what? Tuple. So I think it's important for us to be able to understand all these things, right? So this is tuples on its own, and I've told you the difference between tuples and lists. We can access it just the way we did in list by just doing this. Just print. So if I do this, you know what this will give me, right? It's showing me yellow. Camila,
Sir,
can you tell me the reason why it's showing me yellow, Camila?
because it cannot be
Eh?
edited. Because it cannot be edited.
It's showing yellow now. This is showing yellow here. Why is it showing yellow from this particular? Explain this code for me. The index 3.
Because if you
Hello?
sir,
Explain the yellow for me now.
you wrote print colors 3 that is
Yeah, you
yellow.
remember index now. I think I explained what index is for you earlier. Talking about 0, 1, 2, 3. And I wrote 3 here. And that's why it's showing us yellow. Like I said, we can only access it. We can't edit it. I'm going to show you what we did here. So everything that we did here, adding to the list. Let's see how we can add, if we can add to tuple. So let's come here. We can do, let's see if we can add to tuple, adding to tuple. So let's see how we can add to it, if we can add to it. So we can do colors dot append function. So let's print it. So let me comment this out. Color does append. So let's print it and let's see what this will give me. Can you see what it's saying?
Yes, sir.
Camila,
Yes, sir.
tuple object has no attribute append. Can you see? Object has what? No attribute append. And that is how it will work for every other thing that we do for list earlier. Do you understand? Which means the only thing we can just do to it is to see and point, right? See and point at those things. Oh, I want, yeah, that's yellow. I want yellow. It's just like you going to an ice cream shop or you going to a Nike shop, right? is only you cannot change it. You cannot change their color. You cannot. The only thing is just point at what you want, and you move it. Compared to what you have hold of your wardrobe. Inside your wardrobe, you've got your clothing, you've got your hijab, you've got your so many things that use trousers, gowns, scarves, and you are the owner. You can change it, you can edit it, you can replace it, you can even remove it. You can remove the entire the clothing in your wardrobe and put it somewhere else. Or even remove all the hijab and say, oh, I don't want to mix my hijab with where I have my clothing. Do you understand? That is your own, and that is a typical example of list, right? Compared to what we have in tuples. So tuples basically is just like list, but they are immutable. You cannot do anything except for you to just access them by say, oh, that is blue, that is green. Do you understand? So we cannot do that to tuples. So, and that is that as regards tuples, right? So, the next thing I'm going to introduce us is another thing called dictionary. Dictionary, right? So what do you mean by dictionary? Camilla, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Miriam, can Miriam hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what do you mean by dictionary? In dictionary, I mean English meaning. Dictionary meaning of dictionary. What does dictionary mean? It's just like a book, a book that has collection of words and their meanings. Abi? Abi? Mariam, Camilla. Dictionary is a book, right? With collection of words and their meaning. Am I right? Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh. So if that is the case, dictionary is also
Yes,
something
sir.
like list. But this time around, I want to have more meanings to what I'm doing. For example, I want to see a word and have a description of that word, right? I want to like describe more about your car. So you have a car. What type of car are you using? That is description. That is trying to tell us the meaning of what car you are driving. You've got a car. What type of a car are you driving? Is it Toyota Camry? Is it Mercedes Benz? Is it a Ferrari? Right? Is it a Tesla car? Right? So what's the name of that car? What's the color of your car? Right? What's the model of your car? What year is your car manufactured? Right? Does your car has airbag or not? So these are proper description of your car, right? Which is even quite bigger and more explanatory compared to what we have. And we want to attach all those descriptions to one variable. Don't forget, what we are trying to do here is trying to picture our variable in a more advanced way. What we are used to basically is all our variables are always with one letter. For example, I can just say Miriam is equals to 15. Camilla is equals to, I can just, Camilla can be equals to Quran, right? Just one object. A variable is equals to one object. A variable is always equals to one. That is what we are used to. But right now, we are now saying, okay, a variable can also be equals to many objects. So how do we do that? And that was where we were able to introduce ourselves to what is called list itself. We're able to introduce ourselves to list itself. Do you understand? And from there, we see how lists can be used. But this time around, and from there also, we also introduce ourselves to tuples, right? So this time around, we are not trying as much as possible. We're not trying as much as possible to also see how we can describe more describe those variables. Apart from red, I want to describe that red very well. right? So that is how dictionary works. And because it has a dictionary meaning, so inside your dictionary, you know what we are used to in the dictionary. You are used to a word. You are used to a word. For example, my name is inside the dictionary. My surname. My surname is inside the dictionary. This is my name, right? That is the word. Then we have a full column that describes the meaning of my name, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh. You have a word in the dictionary. For example, all. This is my name, all, right? But don't call me all. I won't answer you. My name is Awe, but all, in case for this particular class. That's the correct pronunciation, right? All. So I've got all, but in front of that particular all, you have a full column that describes the meaning, right? Of it describes the meaning of this particular word. So there is a description of this meaning. All right. Everybody will now understand what the meaning of all is, right? So, and people tends to get it better based on that. So back to Python. So in Python, how do we now do the same thing? So there is something we call the key value pairs in Python when it comes to dictionary, right? So we now have a key which is likened to the word, right? And the value of the word, which is likened to what? The description of the word, right? And for us to create a dictionary, we must have what? A curly braces. This is a curly braces. Press your shift key and you know where your square bracket is, right? Just your shift key and press those square brackets. So you have your curly braces there. Are you with me? So how do we now declare it? Right? So I'm going to use a car. Let me just use cars to be equals to. So I'm going to describe a certain car. So I'll just have a curly braces like this. Press enter. So inside it, I have brand to be what? Ford. I have model to be, but this time around, I'm not going to use the model of the Ford. I will just assume it's Ford, right? So the model can be the year. So 2020 model. I can have uh, I can have color this time around. I have color to be colors. This time around, this is trying to refer to the dictionary colors I have here. But this time around, I'm not going to do that. It's a little bit advanced. So I'll just give you the normal color, which is red. So what else again can we have? We can have airbag. Can do two. Do you understand? So do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
Is someone trying to join again?
Yes, sir.
Again, right now, are you the one trying to join with your laptop or something else?
I want to join my laptop.
Oh, okay. Okay, so basically, this is how it is being done. Can you see? I've been able to describe this particular car. What's the brand of this particular car? Ford. I can change this from Ford to say, let's say Toyota, right? What year, what model, 2020 model, what color is red, right? Does it have airbag? Yes, which means that's true, right? This is how it is being done. However, everything that we can do, we do in lists. We can also do it, we can perform it in dictionary. So we can change, we can add, we can edit, and we can sort or do some other things that we feel we want to do to it. Do you understand? We can do those things. So how do I do this? So this is the key, and this is the value, right? This is the key, right? And this is the value. So the key for brand, the value of the brand is Toyota. So that's the key value pairs. Those are the key value pairs. So how do I do that? Assessing it, I can just assess the model and let's see how it works. I already have this for my car. So let's access the model. This is the model. I can just say model can be equals to, I can create model to be equals to, or create, say, Camila equals to cars. I don't want to color. I want model. I want to show model. Camila equals to cars in brackets model. Then I can just say print Camila. If I do this, can you see what it's showing me? Can you see it's showing me what? 2020. Can you see that that is what it's showing me? It's showing me what? 2020, which I think is very, very important, right? So another thing I can show you is I can show you all the keys and values. I can show you all the keys and values. For example, I can just say and comment all this out. Then come down, say print cars.keys. Print cars dot what? Keys. So let's see what this will give us. And you see what this is showing? It's showing dictionary underscore keys, brand, model, color, airbag. Can you see it? The same thing we can do for values, right? We can do print.cars.values. Like we can see on my screen right now, right? If I print it again, Control F5. If I do Control F5 is to print, right? So I can just make it bigger a little bit. Can you see? These are all the values, right? Brand, Toyota, model 2020, color, red, airbag, true. So very important. All these things are very, very important aspects of it, right? Another thing we can also do is we can also do that of items, right? So the items, we just split it into two. You will see how it works. Print, then we do cars dot items, right? So let's see the difference between all the five. Can you see now? It's splitted it. Brand, Toyota, model 2020, color, red, airbag, true. These are things I believe we can easily get things done, right? We can get it done. However, I believe with this that we have right now, we can do so many things to it. We can do so many things. Then what are those things that we can do is we can iterate over this item. We can iterate. Remember iteration? You remember the iteration that we did in class? So we can now iterate over this item. And I think it's important, right? And we can iterate over list. We can iterate over tuples, right? So how do we do that? Let me just quickly show us how we can iterate over dictionary. All right. So for dictionary, because we already have our items here. So let me start. Let me do it here. Let me comment all this out. Then let me come here. So because we already have our items, right? Right? So we can iterate over it. So how do we start by iterating? Remember, iteration is for or while loop, right? You can just do for cam for cam in cars. For cam in cars, right? In cars, then print cars.cam. Do you understand? Print cars.cam. Sometimes this works. So let's see if this will work. Can you see? It prints cars.cam. It prints Toyota 2020 red and this. But if I want to get brand and Toyota, model and this, color and this, I will just add items to this thing. If I do this, of course, it will work. So this time around, it will work, right? So cam, I will just print cam again, do Control F5. Let's see what this will give us. So he's saying I have an issue somewhere. So where's the issue? Saying for cam in cars dot items print cam. Okay, cam will not be inside box, inside the box the way it is right now. Just we print, I'll just do print cam. Do you understand? I'll just do print cam and that will be all. Can you see? Very, very important. Very key. Straightforward. And we get our answers. Right? And I think it's very important for us to be able to do that. We can get all the keys, we can get all the values, we can do so many things to it. Then how do we add in the dictionary? How do we add in the dictionary? Right? How do we add to a dictionary? So we already have our car. So I want to add something else. For example, I want to add an item to this particular dictionary. So I want to add maybe the capacity. Is there something, what do you think we can add to a car? I want to add maybe the capacity or the tires. Yes, tires. So how do we add tires to the car? Normally it should be 4, but some cars might have more than 4, right? So how do we do that? I want to add to it, right? So the basic thing to do is just for me, I can comment this out. I've shown you how to iterate over a dictionary, and that's same thing how to iterate over a list, right? Which I'm going to show us later while working on some other projects, right? So how do we do that? So I will just do adding to it with just the cars, then just do cars, right? Then do a new thing that I want to do, tires, right? To be equals to say 4, because it's normally it should be 4, right? Normally it should be 4. Then the next thing is just going to be print cars. Normally it should be 4, right? Our next thing is going to be print car. And that is how it will work. So let's check how this works. Let's check how it goes. So if I do Control F5, let's see what it will give me. Can you see? We have a tire that is what? 4. Simple, straightforward, and that is it. Right? We've got a tire that is what? 4. That shows 4. Which is simple and straightforward. Another thing we can do is to edit. So this is adding to a dictionary. Now, how do I edit? Maybe perhaps our car is not red, it's no more red, it's now blue or green or ash color, right? How do we do that? So what we can do is just do the same way. So I will just do cars. This time around, I'm using color, not brand, right? So I'm changing it to blue. If I change it to blue, I can print cars and you will see it. So if I do Control F5, you will see that my color has changed from red, that is here. Let me make it bigger. From red, that is here, it is now blue here again because I've been able to edit it. Right? That is what? Editing or updating a dictionary. So how do we delete a dictionary? How do we delete a certain item in a dictionary, right? So the way we can delete a certain item, so I can just delete, let's see what we can delete. Should you delete model? Let's go and delete model. Let's see how to do that. Delete in dictionary. So how do you do that? So we do del, cars. Then this time around, we are not doing color, we are doing model. Can you see? So let's print. So it's going to be Control F5. Can you see that the third one is no more showing? So you can see that the third one is no more showing. Very, very important, right? And I think we can cue and understand everything that we have from there, right? So many things to do. There are so many things we can do. There are so many things we can do. We can also clear. Can also clear, right? By using, if you want to delete all the items, instead of just using delete, you just delete one of the items. If you want to use delete all the items there, you can use clear, delete all. Let me just say, if you want to delete all the items, so we use clear. So how do we use clear to do that? So we just do cars dot clear function. So once you do that, so let's print cars and let's see what we can have. Control F5. Can you see? It is now empty. This is an empty dictionary. Can you see? Dictionary is empty because we've used clear to clear all the things there. So I think it's important for us to note this, right? Very, very important. And that is how it works. That is how it works, right? So from here, that will now lead us to what is called functions. So we're going to do functions in Python, right? Functions in Python. Functions in Python. So what do you mean by function? Right? So if a program has a large piece of code, for example, we want to write something that is very big, right? Very large, a very big code, right? A very large piece of code, maybe close to a, say, 100 lines of code, 10, 20 lines of code, 15 lines of code, right? We want to do something like that, right? And it requires you to execute those things repeatedly. For example, I want to add. So inside my program, I want to keep adding. So for example, you want to write a calculator, right? You want to write a program for calculator. And you know that people will keep adding all over and over again. Why not write a function that you don't need to like put that particular code again if you want to add? What you just need to do is to call on that function, right? And that is the essence of the function. So if you have a large piece of code that required us to repeat it almost all required us to be execute repeatedly almost all the time, right? It is better for us to implement it as a function, right? Better for us to implement it as a function. So for example, if you can consider this particular example, where you can add two numbers 100 times. If you want to add two numbers 100, and that's a very perfect example of a calculator. You know, if you are building a calculator, people might want to add, they want to subtract, they want to multiply, divide. For just say for a simple calculator, right? People might want to do that. Just simple calculator I want to do in the market, add, subtract, divide, multiply, right? And you know, people will keep doing all these things over and over and over again. It is better for us to write this thing as a function because you know you don't know the number of times they will repeat it. Right. So how do we now declare a function in Python? I've been able to explain what function is. So how do we now declare function? So how do we declare a function in Python? Right? We declare a function in Python by using define. Right? We declare a function by using define, followed by the name of the function you want to write. Right? Function followed by what? The function name, any name. Right? Then we followed it by what? A curly braces, right? Then with a full colon before you can press enter. Are you getting me? Before you can press enter. So when you press enter, there is indentation. It gives you an avenue. There is that spacing I told you during the last class. That spacing that we had during the last class is what is going to give you. So let's try and declare a certain function. So I'm going to declare a function for Camila. So I'm going to say define, which means def, right? Camila, right? Then what next? This. Then tab. Then I can say Mariam is equals to 20. Can you see? I can say what? Mariam is equals to 20. Very simple code, right? So if I'm going to call on Mariam next time, what I will just do is just come here and do print Camila function. So if I do print Camila function, I will just do Control F5. So I have none. Can you see? I will just do print Camila function. Instead of using print, sorry, I'm not going to use print. You don't need print again. Sorry about that. I will just call on Camila. Shikeda. Then F5. So nothing happens. Yes. Why? It's because we did not do anything. I should have finished it by saying print statement. Just do print Mariam. Just do print Mariam. So if I do this now again, Mariam 20 will show. Can you see? So which means I can write as many code as possible here. So the only thing I want to do after every other thing I've written, I will just call on this particular function, the next line if I want to use it. Right? If I want to use it, I will just call on this particular. Another thing I can do is welcoming you to my class. Right? Welcoming you to my class. Remember, once you log into a particular place in your program, maybe in your mail, they will tell you, welcome Camila, welcome Miriam, welcome this, welcome that. How do they do that? That basically it changes the name of every person that come into that login, right? How do they do that? They use functions to do that because that thing is a thing that they to be done repeatedly over and over and over and over again. So they've got to declare a function to make sure that thing works perfectly well, right? So let me give another example. Another example can be is just say dev Nakel, right? This time around, sorry, this is not what I'm looking for. Dev Nakel, right? Yeah, I will just do print welcome to Python class. So if I'm done, I will just from the block code. So this is a block code, right? So once you are done with it and you are out of the block code, so we know you are out of the block code. You are no more writing this particular function again, right? I will just come out of the block code and just say Nakel function. So once I run it, Control F5, you will see. Can you see what it's showing me? Welcome to Python class, right? And we have ways of doing this we have so many ways, right? So we can also add parameters to make it functional or to make it dynamic, right? Just the way you normally see it, right? And how do we do that? So I can just come here and say, use another def. So let me comment all this out. So I have def to be, say you want to print, so you just say print name, right? Function. I have this, right? That's the function of the name. So I will just say, instead of printing, I will just say print, use a print function. So this time around, inside here, this one will contain a parameter. The parameter will be name, right? So here, if I'm going to print, I will just do print, then I will just say welcome Welcome. You remember when I talked about concatenation during the last class? Welcome, name. So, because I want the space to be there, remember, Camila, remember this thing I just did? I want the space to be between the name and this, so that will work perfectly well. So, the next one, I will just move away from this particular thing, and I will just come and say, call on this particular function, that the way we've been calling it, just to print underscore name. So instead of saying John, I will just say Camila. Just put Camila inside the function, then I run it. If I run, can you see what it's showing me? Welcome, Camila. I can say welcome to the Python class, Camila. Can you see? Welcome, Camila. If I change this name to Mariam, here, to just say welcome, Mariam. Can you see? We are making it more dynamic now, right? Which means any name that comes into play, we can get it right. Right? Another thing is going to be our login. So we can now use an input function to make this thing dynamic. Do you understand? I can use my input function to make it dynamic. Very, very important. I can use my input function to make it dynamic. So any name that you put there, maybe your registered name, and you press enter, it will definitely bring that name. For example, if you say, if I just say, I can say name, right, to be equals to an input function. Remember the input function? Say enter your name. Do you understand? Say what? Enter your name. Right, this time around, I will just come here and we'll just call on this. I'll just put name here. So let's run this particular code. If it will run, enter your name. So let me put Nakel and let's press enter. Can you see what I've been able to do? I've been able to turn this my code to a dynamic code, where any name that enters here, it will always welcome them in. And that is what happens in your name, in your account. Whenever you log into an account and the account is saying, welcome, Camila, does this thing remembers me? Does this thing knows my name? Right? It went to your database to pick up your name, and that's the way we just did. Right? It went back to this particular input function to pick that particular name that comes into play. So instead of me now changing this name automatically, dynamically, so I've been able to change it this way. Like changing it just the way we are seeing it, change from Miriam to Camila to this. I've been able to do this and change it in a more dynamic way, where any name you enter, so you can just give me your brother's name. If I run this code again, give me your brother's name. What's your brother's name? Abdullah Abi. So once you give me your brother's or your sister's name now. Do that. Hello, am I speaking to someone?
Mubarak.
Mubarak, right? Mubarak, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I will just say enter your brother's name. I will just say Mubarak. Right? If I press enter now, you'll see that you will tell me welcome Mubarak. And don't forget, I did not put Mubarak in my code. Mubarak is not even in my code at all. Do you understand the drift? So you can see how we can easily use all these things and make it more dynamic. We are making it dynamic a little bit, right? Just the way we feel it should work. Just the way we feel it should work. Another thing is we can also put, I want to know more about from the name, right? I want to know more about from your name. I want to know your age. I want to know the gender. So I'll just do comma age, comma gender. However, nobody is showing it yet. So I will just come here, welcome this. I will just say print age, print gender. Just say welcome. You are, I'll put this inside quotes. You are, so this is going to be plus, that will be plus here. Concatenation. You are the age, another concatenation, years old. For gender, I say you are if you are a male or female, either way it works, right? So here, so what I'm going to come here is going to be enter your name. I will just put age here. Then I will put gender here. Can you see? So here, I'll just do print. Just do print name. I'll just do print name, age, and gender. Put it inside there. So another thing here is this can even be empty, right? Either way works, right? But let's see how it goes, right? So we can see what I've done so far, right? So let's run it. So give me a perfect example. I'm going to make it bigger. So what name are we giving? So I'm going to do Camila, right? Enter your name, enter your age. I will do 15. Then I will do female. So let's see what this will bring us. Welcome, Camila. You are 15 years old and you are a female. Can you see? Can you see? Welcome, Camila. You are 15 years old and you are a female. And these are results it got from here. So this is more dynamic. So if anybody log on to your application and fill in this particular form, you can easily welcome them to your application once they log in. You can easily welcome them to your application once they log in, right? Another thing we can also do basically is to add. We want to return value from a function. I want to return a value from a function. So I want to declare some functions for addition function, subtraction function, multiplication function, and division function. So we want to do that, right? So you want to see how we can do that. We want to see how to do that very well. So I think it's very important for us to show us how to do those ones, right? So for addition function, subtraction function, all those functions, I think it's very, very important. So let me comment all this out. So we want to do some how to return a function, returning a value from functions. Returning values from function. I think that's the best word. So how do we do that, right? So imagine we want to add that. So anything, I don't need to put the addition sign again. Once I put it once, I won't put it again anytime I'm adding. So I will just do def add. So I will just put, because it's only two numbers I want to add, I will just do A and B, right? A and B. These are the two numbers I want to add. Then I press enter. So then, because I said return, so I want it to return A plus B. So the way I'm going to do that is I will just tell it to return A plus B. Anytime you do something like this, return A plus B. I will just say return A plus B. If this is more complex to you, we can do what we normally do and say C is equals to A plus B. Then we can now return C. Just say return C. So this is more explanatory because you already know that C is equals to what? A plus B. So we can return C. So anytime the result that comes here the result that comes from A3 or A and B, it will always be equals to C, then I will always return my C. So the question now is going to be very easy and straightforward, right? The question is not going to be very easy and straightforward. So how do we do that? So I can just say that C, I can just say that C equals to the add function or print. So anytime I want to work on this, I can just come here. I don't want to print, right? I can just say add A plus 2. 1 and 2. We already know 1 is 2 and B 1 is 1, A is 1 and B is 2. We already know that, right? So basically, if you do this, automatically what we've written here is just trying to say your argument must not be more than 2. Argument are those things you put inside the parentheses, right? So if I put more than 2, which is going to be comma 3 or comma, let's say D. If I do D, so it means that I must put something here again. It must be more than that because the argument must be more than 2. That's just a simple meaning, right? So yeah, it's just true and it's fine, right? So if I'm going to run this, let's see if this will run. You see, it's not giving anything. Why? Because we've not said it should print. We just said return C, right? So if I come here and say print C, if I come here and just do print C. So instead of doing return and print are almost the same thing, right? So with this, you can see if I said it print C, you'll see that anytime if I do this now and I run this particular code, to tell me 3. If I change this from 2, or say I can just say 25, and B will be 68, right? If I run my code, of course, it will give me my addition. And this is how it works, right? Very easy. Print C, then add it up. So if I want to do that of subtraction, I can do def. Subtraction can be sub, A and B. Then I can do C equals to A minus B, right? Then I can come here and say print C, just the way we have it. Then I might want to test it and say sub 25 and 68. If I run my code, you will see that it will give me, this is giving me minus 43 for obvious reason. So which means I can come here and do anything again. I can do any other sub. Since I've written that of sub, so basically this is also showing me I can do that of multiplication. Can you see? Right? So and that is how we can use it, and we can be using it everywhere. We can use it everywhere. Because we've been able to do this, I can just do mul to be this, right? If I've done this, I can do division also, right? C equals to A slash B. We've done this when we're doing operators, right? I just do div. And that is that. As regards all these things, we can also do power, right? So if I run all this code, you will see that we've got different answers with different things, right? You can do power raised to power is with double star, right? These are things that we can easily work with. So if I do Control F5, you see all the values will show. Can you see? These are values that will show. However, how do we now reuse them? Just like the way we said, right? We should be able to know how to reuse them, which means, I've written sub, I've written add earlier. I can come here again and say, okay, I want to do add. Add another one. So in this time around, I'm just do 70, 56, right? 70, 56. And that's all. That's all to give me my answer. 70, 56 will give me an answer. So 70 plus 56, that will be 126, right? So let's check if you are going to see 126 in our answer. Can you see? So which means I can keep writing my code. I don't need to put addition, this sign again. Right? Now imagine I now write a certain code that is very lengthy, close to like 10 lines of code or 20 lines of code. Right? It means anytime I want to do that thing, I will always be writing those 20 lines of code. But functions can help me do that by just writing it as a function. Anytime I need it again, I will just call on that thing I use, then that thing will also run for that same avenue I'm trying to use it with. I'm sure this might be new to you, but I'm going to make sure we take much time here to discuss more about functions and see how best we can easily work with functions, right? Because here, most of our assignment that we'll be doing, we work with is going to be functions because we are going to, like I said, there are 2 projects we are going to do even before we start doing web applications. We are going to make sure we develop a calculator, a simple calculator, where we can work on it here on our code base, on our code editor. And we can also develop a complex calculator. We are going to develop another one, a complex calculator, which is going to be a desktop app where people can install on their machine, on their system, and they can use it on their system. And we are going to use Python to do that also. Very important, right? So I want you to please and please take note of these things. Right? So if you have any questions so far based on what we've done, I'm going to give you more time to read about it because this function is also new to you, right? So please, let's try as much as possible to read about it more. So the remaining 30 minutes, I'm going to give you that time to read more about it. If you have any question, you can get back to me and I will gladly, right, respond to those questions. So do you have any question so far? Camila, do you have any question?
No, no, sir.
Okay, Mariam, any question?